The Sele Council erupted into hearty laughter when Mizar claimed humans would annihilate themselves within 10 years, the primitive brutes too foolish and violent to endure. But xenobiologist Peter Russell didn't find it so funny when he detected the aliens spying on Earth. Through his unorthodox research methods, Russell made a horrifying discovery. The technologically advanced Sele planned to let humanity self-destruct, then invade the planet and subjugate the survivors. The warlike humans were advancing too quickly for the Sele's liking. Better to let them burn themselves out and swoop in to claim the ashes. Russell tried desperately to warn the government and scientific community about the impending threat, but no one believed his wild claims about alien surveillance probes and secret invasion plots. They dismissed him as a crackpot, a laughingstock. Undeterred, Russell began gathering evidence on his own to prove the Sele's existence and expose their dire plans for Earth. But the Sele Council got wind of his investigations. Alarmed that Russell might interfere with their scheme, they dispatched a strike team led by Mizar himself to eliminate the troublesome human. The Sele death squad came in the dead of night. Laser blasts shattered the windows of Russell's lab. He barely escaped the assassination attempt with his life. Now he was a man on the run, determined to find a way to save humanity from enslavement and extinction. Russell's harrowing quest led him to an ancient alien ship half buried in an isolated desert. There he uncovered Sele technology that could turn the tables and decoded transmissions revealing the full scope of their plot against Earth. The Sele predicted humans would wipe themselves out within a decade. Then the aliens would arrive to pick the bones, conquering and enslaving while humanity was at its weakest. Time was running out before the Sele's chilling prediction came to pass. As Mizar and his hunters closed in, Russell reverse-engineered an alien weapon from the crash site, his last hope. In a tense standoff, the xenobiologist finally faced his Sele nemesis. With Russell's jury-rigged ray gun to Mizar's head, he extracted a confession detailing the planned downfall and subjugation of the human race. The odds were near impossible. The Sele's supremely advanced warships could arrive any day to begin the invasion. The government thought Russell was a raving madman. No one on Earth knew the threat they faced. It was up to an eccentric, discredited scientist to find a way to rally the planet's defenses, turn the Sele's own weapons against them, and save humanity from a bleak future as broken alien slaves. 10 years. That's all the human race had left if Russell failed. The Sele were so certain of their calculations, so smug in their technological superiority, that they openly guffawed at mankind's predicted downfall. But if Peter Russell has anything to say about it, when the metaphorical smoke clears, we'll see who has the last laugh. Russell threw his head back. He massaged his temples and blinked hard, trying to focus on the glowing screens in front of him. The flickering light illuminated the dark circles under his eyes and the stubble on his jaw. He couldn't remember the last time he'd slept more than a couple hours at a stretch. He pulled up another file on Sele physiology, searching for any clue that could give humanity an edge. Their exoskeletons were tough, their regenerative abilities formidable. But there had to be a weakness, some chink in their armor. Russell just had to find it before it was too late. The door to the lab hissed open, and Colonel Thompson strode in, assault rifle slung over his shoulder. He looked as haggard as Russell felt. "Doc, you better come see this," Thompson said grimly. "We picked up a transmission from the Sele. They're mobilizing for a full-scale attack." "Shit!" Russell hissed through clenched teeth. He surged to his feet, his chair clattering to the floor behind him. "How long do we have?" Thompson shook his head. "Not long. They're pissed about their failed ambush, and they're not fucking around this time. We need a plan, and we need it fast." Russell's mind raced as he followed Thompson down the hallway at a jog. The secret base buzzed with activity now that the Sele's intentions were clear. Soldiers hustled to defensive positions while scientists hunched over workbenches, frantically assembling prototype weapons. Dr. Simmons intercepted Russell as he entered the command center. Her dark skin looked ashen in the harsh fluorescent light. "Russell, please tell me you found something we can use against these bastards," Simmons said, desperation sharpening her voice. "Maybe." Russell replied, calling up a series of brain scans on the central display. Look here. The Sele nervous system is significantly different from ours. I think if we can disrupt the electrical impulses... He outlined his plan, his words spilling out in a fevered rush. A barrage of tightly focused electromagnetic pulses, calibrated to Sele brain waves, broadcast on the right frequency. It could stun them, maybe even kill them if the amplitude was cranked high enough. Simmons's eyes widened as she grasped the implications. It's so crazy it just might work, she murmured. Crazy is all we've got, Russell said, his mouth set in a hard line. He turned to Thompson. Get me a line to the Joint Chiefs, to the President. Hell, get me on the phone with anyone who'll listen. We need to get the word out. Get this tech deployed before the hammer falls. Thompson nodded curtly. His fingers flew across a communications console, sending a flurry of encrypted messages. I'll twist whatever arms I have to. We're not going down without a fight. For a moment, Russell let himself believe they actually had a chance, however slim. Then the wail of an alarm shattered his concentration. Proximity alert, a soldier shouted from his sensor station. We've got incoming. Russell's blood turned to ice in his veins as he stared at the pulsing red dots swarming the radar screen. The Sele were here, and they had brought an armada. The ground shuddered with the first impacts, alien weaponry pounding the desert above the underground base. Russell gripped the edge of the console as the entire complex shook, dust billowing from the ceiling. Despite everything, he barked out a harsh laugh. So much for the Sele's prediction that humanity would destroy themselves. The bastards had gotten impatient and decided to speed up the timetable. Russell snatched a pulse rifle from a nearby rack and slapped a magazine into the well. Alarm klaxons blared as he sprinted for the stairs, ready to join the defense. It was like he'd told the smug Sele pricks what felt like a lifetime ago. We'd see who had the last laugh. And if this was humanity's final punchline, Peter Russell was damn well going to make it a good one. Russell sprinted down the corridor, his mind racing faster than his feet. The Sele invasion force was coming, and Earth wasn't ready. Not by a long shot. He burst into the command center, startling the exhausted staff. We need allies, Russell announced, slamming his hands on the central console. Every nation with a standing military, now. Colonel Thompson raised an eyebrow. You want to go public? After all the ridicule? We don't have a choice, Russell replied. Get me a secure line to every world leader you can reach. For the next 72 hours, Russell barely slept. He pleaded his case to presidents, prime ministers, and generals. Many laughed. Some listened politely before declining. A few, however, were intrigued. The Russian president leaned forward, his craggy face filling the view screen. You say you have proof of these aliens? Russell nodded to Dr. Simmons, who activated their prototype weapon. The hybrid tech hummed to life, crackling with otherworldly energy. The president's eyes widened. Bože moi, he breathed. Perhaps we should talk further, Dr. Russell. Similar scenes played out across the globe. Skepticism gave way to cautious belief as Russell's team demonstrated their reverse-engineered Sele technology. Within a week, the UN Security Council convened an emergency session. Russell stood before the assembled delegates, his voice hoarse but determined. The threat we face is real, he said, and it will take all of us, working together to have any hope of survival. Heated debates raged for hours. The Chinese ambassador pounded his fist on the table. This is American propaganda, he shouted. The U.S. representative shot back. Then explain the wreckage we recovered, the alien bodies. On and on it went, accusations flying. Russell felt his hopes slipping away. Then the British delegate stood. Gentlemen, she said firmly, we can argue until the Sele bombs start falling, or we can do something about it. I move we put it to a vote. The tension in the chamber was palpable as votes were cast. In the end, it passed by the narrowest of margins. A coalition was formed, the U.S., Russia, China, and key European powers agreeing to pool resources under Russell's guidance. As Russell's team got to work coordinating Earth's defenses, light years away, the Sele High Council convened. Mizar stood before them, his carapace still bearing scars from his last encounter with the humans. "The primitives grow more troublesome," one counselor rumbled. "Perhaps we should reconsider this invasion." "No," Mizar said sharply. "I have faced these humans. They are clever, yes, but no match for our might. Give me command of the Armada, and I will crush them once and for all." The council murmured in agreement. Unaware of the fragile alliance forming on Earth, they proceeded with their plans for conquest. Back on Earth, Russell hunched over screens filled with Soleil tactical data. He turned to his team, a gleam in his tired eyes. "I think I've found a weakness," he said. "The Soleil, for all their tech, are predictable. They underestimate us. We can use that." Russell outlined his audacious three-pronged strategy. Dr. Simmons nodded, already sketching designs for an EMP weapon. Colonel Thompson grinned, cracking his knuckles as he contemplated boarding actions against Soleil ships. "It's insane," Simmons said, "but it just might work." As they fine-tuned the plan, reports came in of the Soleil Armada entering the solar system. Time was up. Russell took a deep breath, keying the comm to address Earth's unified forces. "This is it, people. Everything we've got. Let's show these alien bastards what humans can do." Across the globe, soldiers strapped into fighters and boarded transports. The EMP weapons powered up. Russell himself climbed into a stealth craft, ready to lead the strike on the Soleil flagship. As one, humanity prepared to fight for its very existence. The celebration of humanity's victory was short-lived. Russell stood before a wall of screens in the command center, watching footage of the aftermath. Soleil ships drifted lifelessly through space, their hulls torn open by Earth's makeshift weapons. It should have felt like a triumph, but a gnawing unease ate at Russell's gut. "We bloodied their nose," Colonel Thompson said, stepping up beside him. "But you know they'll be back." Before Russell could respond, an alarm blared. A technician called out, "Incoming transmission. It's from the Soleil leadership." Russell's eyes widened. "Put it through." The screens flickered, revealing the alien visage of Grand Patriarch Trellis. His compound eyes glittered with an unreadable emotion. "Dr. Russell," Trellis buzzed, "we must speak, privately." Hours later, Russell sat alone in a secure room, absorbing the bombshell Trellis had dropped, an ancient doomsday weapon, a faction of Soleil extremists bent on Earth's annihilation, and a desperate plea for help from the very aliens who'd tried to conquer them. Russell's mind raced. Could he trust Trellis? The fate of two species hung in the balance. He called an emergency meeting with Earth's newly formed Defense Council. Voices raised in heated debate as Russell laid out Trellis's proposal. "It's a trap," the Chinese general snarled, thumping his hand on the table. "Or our only shot at lasting peace," the British PM countered. Russell took a deep breath. "I know it's a risk, but I've seen what the Soleil are capable of. If their hardliners get hold of this weapon, we're done for. Working with Trellis might be our only chance." Reluctantly, the council agreed. Within days, a joint human Soleil strike force assembled in secret. Russell stood in the hangar of their stealth ship, surrounded by a motley crew of battle-hardened humans and Trellis's exiled followers. "This mission is our last best hope," Russell said, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. "We go in quiet, we grab the weapon, we get out. Any questions?" A grizzled human commando raised his hand. "Yeah, how do we know these bug-eyed bastards won't stab us in the back the second we're in their territory?" Trellis stepped forward, mandibles clicking. "Because without you, my people are doomed to endless war. This is our chance to forge a new path. Together." The journey into the heart of Soleil space was tense. Russell spent hours poring over stolen schematics of the Vault world, planning their infiltration down to the second. As they approached their target, alarms suddenly blared. "We've been spotted," the pilot shouted. "Soleil cruisers incoming." Russell gritted his teeth. "Looks like we do this the hard way. All hands prepare for combat insertion." The next hours were a blur of plasma fire and brutal close-quarters combat. Russell's team fought their way through twisting alien corridors, Soleil blood mingling with human on the polished floors. They finally reached the vault, only to find Mizar waiting for them, flanked by fanatic troops. "Did you really think we wouldn't be prepared?" Mizar sneered. The firefight was intense. Russell watched in horror as soldiers on both sides fell. But in the chaos, he spotted an opening. With a desperate lunge, he tackled Mizar, sending them both crashing into the vault's control panel. Alarms shrieked as the massive doors ground open. There, bathed in sickly light, floated a device of impossibly advanced design. "The Omega Catalyst," Trellis breathed. Russell snatched the weapon, shouting, "Fall back! We've got what we came for!" They fought their way back to their ship, but their luck had run out. A Soleil armada filled the sky, weapons locked on. "Folding drives hit," the pilot yelled. "We're trapped." Russell locked eyes with Trellis. In that moment, an unspoken understanding passed between them. "Do it," Trellis said grimly. With trembling hands, Russell activated the Omega Catalyst. Reality itself seemed to scream as the fabric of space-time tore apart. "Blind jump," Russell roared. "Now!" The ship lurched sickeningly as they plunged into the maelstrom. The last thing Russell saw before losing consciousness was the Soleil fleet disintegrating in a wave of cosmic fire. He didn't know how long he was out. When Russell finally came to, he found himself staring out at an alien starfield, with no idea where or when they were. The ship bucked violently as it tore through the fabric of space-time. Russell's head slammed against the bulkhead, his vision blurring. Alarms blared, their shrill cries cutting through the chaos. The acrid smell of burning circuits filled the air. "Brace for impact!" Russell shouted, his voice barely audible over the cacophony. The ship shuddered, metal screaming as it was pushed beyond its limits. With a final, sickening lurch, they crashed. Russell's world went black. When he came to, the bridge was a smoldering ruin. Sparks danced from shattered consoles. Groaning, Russell pulled himself to his feet. His ribs protested with each breath. "Trellis?" he called out, coughing as he inhaled a lungful of smoke. "Anyone?" A weak chittering answered him. Russell stumbled through the wreckage, finding Trellis pinned beneath the fallen support beam. With a grunt of effort, Russell heaved the debris aside. "Status report," Russell wheezed, helping the Soleil to his feet. Trellis's compound eyes flickered. "Not good. We're far from home." Russell limped to a still-functioning scanner. The readout made his blood run cold. They were adrift in uncharted space, their ship critically damaged. "We've crash-landed on some godforsaken rock," Russell muttered. "No chance of another jump. We're stuck." Over the next few days, Russell and Trellis worked to salvage what they could. The harsh winds of the rogue planet howled outside as they cobbled together a makeshift shelter from the ship's remains. "Water recyclers are at 30% efficiency," Russell reported, wiping grime from his forehead. "Food stores will last a month, maybe 2 if we stretch it." Trellis clicked his mandibles in concern. "And no sign of rescue." As the cycles wore on, survival became a grueling routine. Russell's hands cracked and bled as he dug for edible roots in the planet's acidic soil. Trellis huddled in the shelter, his exoskeleton ill-suited for the extreme cold. During the long nights, they worked on their legacy. Russell's fingers flew across a salvaged datapad, recording humanity's history. Beside him, Trellis dictated the rise and fall of the Soleil Empire. One night, the sky erupted in a haunting spectacle. Burning chunks of debris streaked across the inky blackness. The remnants of the Soleil civilization turned to cosmic ash. Russell and Trellis stood in silence, watching the fiery display. The weight of their actions pressed down on them like a physical force. "We did this," Trellis said softly. "My people's pride, our lust for dominance." Russell nodded grimly. "Humanity's no better. We consumed, we fought, we destroyed. And for what?" They shared a look of understanding. Two species, separated by light years in biology, united in the realization of their shared folly. As the last embers faded from the sky, Trellis turned to Russell. "One final task," he said, his voice weak. "The override codes for the Omega Catalyst. We must ensure it can never be used again. Russell nodded, accepting the burden. With trembling hands, he input the complex sequence of characters that would render the Apocalypse device inert. Trellis watched, his breathing labored. "It is done," he whispered. "Perhaps the next civilization will learn from our mistakes." With those words, Trellis closed his eyes for the final time. Russell buried him beneath the alien soil, marking the grave with a piece of ship debris. Years passed. Russell's hair turned gray, his face etched with lines. He survived on stubbornness and spite, refusing to let the harsh world claim him. Then, one day, a shadow fell across the ramshackle shelter. Russell looked up, hardly daring to believe his eyes. A sleek craft hovered above, unlike any he had ever seen. As the rescue team approached, Russell fumbled for the battered datapad containing humanity's last testament. His final message crackled through the static. "To those who find this record, heed our warning. We reached for the stars and nearly destroyed ourselves in the process. The question remains."
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.